Hello everybody, James here, Storytime with Dutch Mantell, episode 175. Dutch Mantell is there with a backwards cap.
It's backwards?
Yeah, how come the writing's backwards all of a sudden? Have you done the mirroring thing? I've just realised.
I don't know, but it's right on my side. I can read it.
Well, put it this way, if you do want a University of Dutch Mantell cap, they are still available, are they?
I don't have them now. I'm sold out.
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, they were written right in real life.
I'm going to come out with some more a little bit later.
Yeah. We'll do the intro very quickly.
You like the scalp?
I would. Nice scalp, right? It looks a bit well worn.
It is not well worn. Well, it may be. Anyway, but that's a nice looking cap. People would ask you about this, and you say, "Oh, you don't know about the university? Oh, yeah, it's taking college athletics to a new level." But anyway, that's going to be available a little bit later.
Was Clemson taking college athletics to a whole new level?
Clemson?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they worry me. I mean, they were supposed to have they started in the top four last year. Guess where they finished?
Bottom.
Probably, well, not the bottom. They had a winning season, but you never see Clemson lose 4 games. And they lost 4 games. And they lost their, I don't know, they just fell apart for some reason. Hey. And don't bring up Clemson to put me in a bad mood.
I was going to say, when does the season start again?
A couple months.
Okay. I look forward to the weekly updates from then on.
Have you noticed?
Mm-hmm.
You notice my haircut?
Did you dye it?
Did I what?
Did you dye
I don't dye my hair. I've been asked about that. Do you dye your hair? And no, I don't. Does it look dyed?
Well, it's very much a different color to your mustache, but I know you don't dye it. I just thought I'd ask you.
I don't. That's weird, right? Well, I've even said, my hair is, dark still, and my mustache is just as gray as it could be, or white. But anyway, I don't understand it. I don't guess I'm supposed to understand it. And let this be the last time you've spoken about my hair being dyed. There's a big controversy going around about me dyeing my hair. I don't do it, period.
I know. Okay, Dutch is asking me why he's got a haircut, or like, have you noticed my haircut and why? There's a reason. We'll get to that in a minute. I know why he's going to. Very quickly, Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2Ls at gmail.com. That's the email you write to for your signed merchandise, including signed books from Dutch, signed WCW trading cards from Dutch, and diplomas from the University of Dutch as well. And also the other email you need is questions for Dutch at gmail.com. That is the email you use to write into this very show. Submit your questions for the Friday Spectacular Ask Dutch Anything, which we missed last week. We missed everything last week because you had some prior engagements that you had to take care of, so we had to leave it for the week. But we're back again, as I'm sure you will know because you're watching it. And Dutch, why did you decide to get a haircut?
Why did I decide to get a haircut?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had an appointment I needed to make. So I got it cut for that.
What was that appointment?
What's that?
What was that appointment? Why are you being so cagey with me?
No, I went to the WWE pay-per-view Backlash that was held here in Tampa, and I was invited down by someone higher up in the company, which surprised me that they had my number. But I was invited, and I went down there, and I saw everybody that I'd known before, because I've been gone there for a pretty good while. So you would suspect that a lot of guys wouldn't know me. And, the new guys, they may have known me, but I don't know them. But everybody was very, very friendly. Everybody. So, and Tampa had a Backlash, had a at a great crowd. I don't know if it's sold out or not, but it looked pretty full to me. So, and a good show. So I met all the guys, backstage, and I didn't relive old memories because my daughter was with me, Amanda. She was with me. So sometimes some of those stories you can't tell, and with certain people present. So we left those out. But yeah, I enjoyed my time revisiting with the guys I'd known before in WWE.
So, do you want to tell us who came up to you to say hello that you met for the first time, or old friends, I guess, as well?
Bobby Roode, he came up, and most of the referee crew came up to me and said hello. And who's the head guy of SmackDown? Who's the general manager?
Nick Aldis.
Nick Aldis. Because I've known him a long time. I was in India with him.
Oh yeah, ring kick in.
Yeah. And these, meeting people that you haven't seen for a long time, the introduction now is totally, totally different than what it used to be. It used to be just a handshake. But now, so I was sitting down, it was a big embrace, a big hug. Brother, what are you doing? How are you? And very, very nice. I met Triple H, and Triple H, he was so busy in the back, and he knew I was going to be there. So he called at least 3 times for me to come back and meet him, but I didn't get it. So on the 4th time, they said, "Hey, he's asked for you 4 times." I said, "Whoa, I didn't even know that." So I went to the back, and when he came out, he was in the office, and when he came out, he gave me a big hug and, asked how I was doing, and I talked to him for about 20 minutes, but very, very nice, very nice meeting. And I've always liked him since really, I almost knew him from the time he broke in. So, and I knew that he's from Connecticut, right?
Around that way, yeah.
Yeah. But I knew him back in the day when I would go to Germany. It was me and Triple H in the back of the bus, whatever. They took us around in. So, and while I'm not that close to him, but he was always been very, very good to me and always very friendly. And I'm trying to remember some of the other people I met.
Danhausen came up to you, I believe.
Danhausen did come up to me, didn't talk to me because he was running, but he saw me and recognized me, and he ran up. And they did a really good thing with him in the ring. And it's like he would treat it from the ring. Who was he wrestling Saturday night?
Oh, well, he had the Minihausen with the Miz and
yeah, but they didn't go out there with him, and he ran back to a door, and it was all smoked up, and I guess his opponent thought he was just going to come out with somebody. So he came out with like 6 little Danhausens, and they got in the ring and beat the crap out of him. So that was actually, and the crowd popped huge for it, because that's what I like about crowds. If they don't know what's coming and they see it and they like it, they will immediately respond, and you've done the right thing.
I've got a few more.
Danhausen is not a really big guy. He's actually, I guess he probably weighs, I don't think he weighs 180, but it doesn't matter because his gimmick, it gets him over, and it's a gimmick for kids anyway. And I did hear that his merchandise, literally at shows and even, people ordering online, is through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And which tells me he's going to be there for quite some time, because if they're selling, a lot of stuff of him, it means the kids like him. And for years I heard that, Vince, I guess this is just something you learn on your own, but Vince liked guys who could sell things that appeal to kids. because they are money makers, and Danhausen is a big one.
Got a few more names for you. John Cena, Jeremy
Oh, I
Borash.
met
Yeah.
John Cena, walked by and saw me, stopped, come over there again, give me the embrace, the big hug, and said, "How you doing? You know, missed you, man." Blah 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 blah. And he looked great. He was in the suit, and that's the way he dresses now, I guess. And it was good to see him. Who else do you have?
Jeremy Borash.
I did meet him, and he came up, and it's the same thing. He'd walk by when you walk by the tables or whatever they have set up there, and you
Catering.
look over there, and there's somebody that you know from the past. He came over, same thing, big smile on his face. Uh, Give me the embrace again. How you doing? I said, "You are one fat son of a." He said, "Yeah, I put a little weight on." But he's still like Jeremy, and he was still the Jeremy of old. He was just a little bigger.
Natalia.
Natalia, yes, I did meet her, and she talked to me for about 10 minutes, and I wasn't that close to Natalia when I was there before, but I still followed her career since she started, and she was very friendly. Is she married to the guy?
TJ Wilson. Yeah, still.
Is she married to him?
Yeah,
Yeah, he was there. Except I think while she was meeting me, I don't think he introduced himself. I don't know why, but I think he thought he might interfere in something. But I guess he's a good guy.
A couple more names. The Usos.
Both of them, yes. Met them, and they looked at me like, "What the hell are you doing here?" And I talked to them for about 10 minutes. And I remember a couple of trips I made with them, and actually good guys to be around, friendly, and they like my jokes and they like my humor, and so and they remembered me. Who else?
A couple more names. Logan Paul.
Yep, I met Logan Paul. What I noticed about Logan Paul, he's been hitting the gym because you could see it in his arms. The deltoid muscles was unusually big for him. And I'm just judging by pictures, but he's been hitting those weights pretty hard and fairly frequently because he looks a lot better than when he first started. Yeah, nice guy.
A couple more names, and then we'll leave it at that. Seth Rollins and Solo Sikoa.
I met Solo. I didn't meet Seth because Seth was in the back, I guess studying his match or whatever those guys do. See, that's the difference between now and when I started. Because if you had a match with a guy back in my day, you just say, "Okay, I got a match with him." Nothing was rehearsed. Nothing was talked about. We would just go out there and we would wing it the entire match. Now, after a while, when you have so many matches with the same guy, which you did, you wouldn't even have to talk anyway. I mean, you just knew what was coming next. But the way they put these things together now, it's like passing a college exam. It's all written down, all put in logistical order, I guess. But back in the day, we didn't do that. The old saying is we just winged it. And that's what we do back in the day. But they don't do that now, which I see why. But that's why I didn't meet him, because he was in deep rehearsal in his mind.
Yeah, he was in the opener as well.
That's a good saying, huh? In deep rehearsal.
What other differences did you notice backstage then? compared to when you were last with WWE? Because I think you left at the end of 2015.
Yeah, 2015 is when I finished. Yes.
Yeah. So, what were there any like major differences backstage? How they set up arenas or whatnot?
Well, it's more. I guess it's more situated logistically because, but what caught my eye was it was so huge. I remember pay-per-views back when I was there didn't have the setup that they have today. I mean, you may go in there and walk the entire distance around the building, and it's all WWE related. When I pulled in the parking lot, and hey, I got a limo too.
Did you really?
Oh yeah, they sent a limo
Yeah.
for me. Amanda says, my daughter, she says, "You're getting a limo?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, how will we know it's for you?" I said, "Well, I doubt if we're going to have many limos pulling up in front of your house. So I'll assume that's for me."
Yeah, yeah.
But
Also, if the limo pulls up, it doesn't matter where it goes. It's going to go somewhere fun.
oh yeah.
So, I mean, even if it's the wrong limo, get in it anyway.
But the size of just the setup for the pay-per-view, when you pull in the lot, the first thing you see is 18 wheelers with a huge trailer behind them, probably close to 10. I mean, that's a lot of setup taken into that building. And then what you see, you know what else you see? Buses. Buses out the yin yang. You know, and I don't know if John Cena had a bus. I doubt if he did. He probably just
I was going
drove
to
out
say,
there.
that's a good question, actually, because he isn't on the road, so why would he have a bus?
Yeah.
Gunther's got
But,
one, Cody Rhodes has got one, Randy Orton's got one.
yep.
I'd
And
suspect The Miz would probably have one. Loads of people have got buses. CM Punk has one.
they're all loaded up. And a lot of them don't know why. I didn't see some of them because the guys, unless they were called inside, they just stay in the buses because that's what they live on the road, on the road. But the difference between now and back then is because they needed the buses back then because they traveled ungodly miles. But now, since they've cut most of those, what we call house shows, out, I think they only use them for SmackDown and Raw. They used to, but I guess to me it made sense back in the day because a guy would go out on the road for 6 days, and 2 of those days would be TV days, and 3 of those days would be house live events. Actually, they would stay on the bus, so that would save them a bill for a hotel room. But I always thought, where does the driver stay? He doesn't stay on the bus.
I thought they did. Like, do they not have like a bunk or something there?
Well, he may have. He's got several bunks. It sleeps 6 people, so they got 6 bunks. But I doubt if the talent wanted the driver in the bus with him. See what I mean?
Mm.
He did. Well, he probably knows the guy by now, and I always wondered, did the driver stay on the bus or not? I never had that question answered. I heard sometimes he did, and sometimes he got a room.
So why weren't you out in the crowd then? Because they showed Dan Spivey and Steve Kern. I thought maybe we might see you in the crowd at the same time.
Well, they asked me, and I'd been there about like 3 hours up to then. So, and my mobility is limited. So I just didn't want to go out there and deal with it because, you could go out there. I could have gone out there and they could have forgotten me and I'd have to be to the end. And they say, "Oh, where's Dutch? Where's Dutch? Oh, he's still sitting out there." The building was empty, and I'm sitting out there going, "Hey, hey, you forgot me." But and I think they asked me when I was talking to Triple H, did I want to go out there, and I declined. It didn't matter. They told me you could either go out there or not. It's up to you. So I didn't go out there. Now I wish I had, but I didn't.
Yeah, you could have done one more We the People. Would have been interesting to see how many people like chanted along with it.
Oh yeah, I could have done We the People.
Yeah,
that would have been good.
well, next time they're in Tampa, you're gonna have to
See,
do that.
when I first started doing We the People, we went to Europe, and people were telling me they won't say We the People when you go out there. I said, well, I don't know. And guess what? The people were doing it stronger there than they were doing it in the United States. And I would stand up and put your hand over your chest and say along with me, "We the people." They'd already be standing anyway, and I would get a big response off that. Hey, Jack even did it on his slap happy deal. What's that called? Slap?
No, it should be Happy Slapping with Jake Hager.
Yeah. So he did it on his slap debut, and the people responded. I don't think they've forgotten it. I was thinking the other day, that gimmick, the me and Jack is American. It would be perfect for today. It would get over today.
They won't touch it though.
Today.
That's the thing. I think everyone's too scared to get too political now. I think Nick Khan in an interview recently said we won't do that kind of something overtly political on television anymore. So just said it like.
Well, I can see that. Because how do you lose friends?
Talk about money, talk about politics, talk about religion.
Our religion. You talk about that, you're going to not necessarily be liked if you have the opposing view. And a lot of people think, the liberals in the company think that, Trump is a demon, and the conservatives, the Republicans, think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. So, and it is better left alone. But if they weren't afraid to do it, it would be a perfect angle now. Put him as a heel, and the people that liked him would, cheer him, and the people that hated him would, it'd be a loud reaction from the crowd.
So, we just had to establish off air then. So, how much of the show did you actually watch, Dutch? and you went, the Danhausen match. Right, okay then.
Well, it started there. They said, okay, the show is going to start right now. I said, okay. I spent 10 minutes looking for a monitor, which is highly unusual in a WWE, like backstage. And I had to finally go to one room, and they had it, and they probably had another room, but I went in and sat down, but I'd missed a lot of it by then. But I did catch the Danhausen match. Who was Danhausen against?
The Miz and Kit Wilson.
Yes, that's right, The Miz.
Okay, then. So, there's a lot of things. First off, the mystery opponent or the mystery tag partner was revealed to be a Minihausen. And do you know what? You were actually in the company with Minihausen back in the day because he was El Torito, the bull.
Yep.
With Los Matadores back in the mid-2010s.
Okay, let me ask you this. Is he a regular member now?
No. Well, we don't know. I don't think so. But he's been, I guess, mostly working Mexico. And, he knows what he's doing. He's
no kidding. That guy is good. Now, who was he before?
He was the guy dressed up as the bull.
Yeah. Most of those guys they have in Mexico are pretty good. Because I don't know what makes them so good. I think we'll talk about this later. Because why those guys are so good is because they get the reps. You know what I mean? Get the reps.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and I was going to talk about this later, but I'll do it now. the WWE talent, especially the new talent, unless they get the reps in NXT, they don't get them when they go up on the main roster because they don't run that many shows. They just run TVs. And what they're leery of is putting a guy on TV who doesn't have the reps. That I'm not saying they would have to do a lot of editing on his match, but they would have. They would have to do that, but to make it look better, because the guys don't have the experience. And as opposed to when I first broke in, I started on a full schedule. It was 7 days a week. So 7 days a week, I was crawling my little butt up in the ring, and I'd be in there for 10 minutes at least, 10 to 15 minutes. And I do remember when I started, every night was a Broadway. You know what that means?
So the time limit.
Time limit draw every night. And I remember the first time the referee told me go Broadway, and I had such a stunned look on my face. And he's an old-time Georgia announcer. His name was Charlie Smith, which was the biggest, bullshitter in the world, friendly as hell. But he says, "You know what that is, don't you, boy?" I went, and I was too embarrassed to say no. He said, "That means 15 minutes through." And I didn't know what through meant. I said, "What's that mean?" He says, it's a you time limit draw. You go, nobody wins, you got it. I said, "Oh, I got it now." But I bet I did those about 30 days in a row, maybe, except for TV days. And TV days, really, it counted for a rep, but I still had to work somewhere else that night. So sometimes I would wrestle, even when I started, 8 times a week, not 8 days, but 8 times a week. And in Louisiana, when I went down there later on, it was 9 times a week, because they would have a double header on Saturday and Sunday. So you would make one show, get in your car, drive to the next show. You wouldn't even get undressed. You just drive to the next show, and you get there sometimes 10 minutes before the match went in, and they'd throw you in there and you do it. Then you have to drive back to Louisiana, which was about 350 miles. So it was a chore. It was really, really hard back in those days. And it amazed me that more wrestlers weren't killed in car accidents than what happened. I don't remember a wrestler dying in a car accident, really. I don't think they had that many. I don't think they had that many accidents, but they could have. But that was the difference. We got the reps, and the guys today don't.
We will be actually talking about that in a little bit because of an interview Shawn Michaels gave. So we will revisit that later on in this episode. Danhausen, Minihausen versus Miz and Kit Wilson. I've got to ask you, Dutch, I know you like a bit of comedy in wrestling. Before we actually get to that question, people had kind of assumed it was going to be anyone between CM Punk and Jelly Roll to Stephen A. Smith and whoever else. There was a ton of different people suggested this could have been the partner. Yeah. And then Mini Danhausen comes out and everyone boos. And then a couple of minutes later, the fans get with it again. And I was thinking, man, is Danhausen almost bulletproof at this point? Within 2 months, he's only been in with the company about 7 weeks, and he's already bulletproof. Yeah. And he started off a match where the fans were booing because they kind of set themselves up for a disappointment, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then by the end of it, they were loving it.
Oh, yeah. Well, wrestling fans I think they're momentarily distracted, and the first time they read it, or they hear about it, they put a face on it, and this is what it's going to be. And when they finally got into the match, the people loved it, because what was not to like about that match? Because I liked it, and I says, and nobody told me, but I should have known that the little midget was from Mexico, because they have a lot of them down there. But now American midgets, they used to have a school for them, and now they don't. They're just non-existent. So if you have any midgets, you got to get them out of Mexico, I guess.
This was like a really typical like minis match, but three of the are regular sized, but like they were all working like a mini star match, and it was all fun and everything. What's your opinion of comedy wrestling, generally speaking, then? Because I know you like ridiculous stuff here and there, but full matches, where do you like?
Well, it works with Danhausen because that's what he is. It's like seeing. I'm trying to think of some wrestlers you put in the ring. I've seen the Australians, the Bushwhackers. That was comedy stuff. They didn't really do anything, not with it, but they were in the other territories. They were, it was blood and guts with those guys. But when Vince took them to WWF, that's when they went first time, I think. They were comedy from the get-go. So I remember one time it was like, what do you call these matches where you start with two and then one joins every 2 minutes? And
like a gauntlet match or a Royal
gauntlet
Rumble
match.
Kind of thing.
Luke hit the ring, and as soon as he hit the ring, somebody grabbed him, threw him over the top, and he was strutting down the aisle, and they threw him in and threw him over the top, and he didn't miss a step. He started strutting out, and the music hit again. So he came down, got thrown out, and I don't think the music stopped. And he hit, and then he just kept going back.
They didn't even play music back then. That was the Royal Rumble, by the way. Do you know what the funny thing is? Is that Bushwhacker Luke, I think I'm right in saying, was never the quickest elimination. I think it was Warlord. It was always Warlord who was the quickest elimination, and Luke was like second. Like he was never first.
What? Okay, what is Warlord's time?
Oh, it was like 2 seconds.
Well,
I think Luke was 3. The person who was eliminated the quickest ever, Santino. They tried to get it to be Titus O'Neil, but the problem was Titus O'Neil completely messed it up. Like he got completely tangled in the ropes, so he didn't get out for like 5-6 seconds.
That's not when he went up under the ring, right?
No, that was a different Royal Rumble flub.
That was I was watching that, and when he did that, I've never understood the term rolling on the floor, but if I could have, I'd have gotten on the floor and laughed. It was hilarious. And, some things hit you. He could have gotten really hurt, but I didn't imagine that, because I bet when he got in the back, they were all over his butt, all over. And Vince, I heard, he was almost rolling in the floor laughing at him. So he tried to go in and make a big impression and trip and slide up. I think the only thing showing when he stopped was sliding was his boots. And he had to come backing out of there. It was very funny.
There was a bit in the match with the Danhausen thing where Minihausen tried to curse Kit Wilson, and Kit Wilson had a mirror, and the curse was reflected, and the fans went like that. Uh-huh. They were like actually into it. It's like, man, that's what I was thinking. Danhausen's like bulletproof.
But that's the beauty about wrestling. Okay, so Danhausen has a curse. Tell me about that.
He just curses you. That's it, and then bad things happen to you.
Oh, he puts the curse on you, and so who had the mirror?
Kit Wilson did.
Yeah.
And they both did a great job as well, Miz and Kit Wilson. So everything there was a bit where at the end, the Miz, he's been cursed prior, and he fires the extinguisher. It's like, oh, it's not working, because he tries to spray whoever it is, one of the Hausens. And then he looks at it and it sprays himself in the face. But the thing is that he goes, psh, and then he like misses his face on purpose, because I think he got it up his nose and was like, oh. So he was just spraying it in the air, pretending to hit himself in the face. But then he gave Kit Wilson the full blast, and then he kind of just like went to himself. So
Well, I think they had a it did what it was supposed to do, and it was get the people into it. And if the people can switch from a serious match to a comedy match, I mean, they're pretty adaptable. So my hat's off to them. Because you asked me about little comedy wrestling. That's what that's supposed to be. And the kids can sit back and watch it. And there's a beauty about being 6 years old, 7 or 8 or whatever, and watching wrestling. And some of it you really, really love. And I think when they finally find out that it's not 100% real, I think that's when they go away from wrestling. And I always heard that they leave the wrestling, watching when they're in like the 10th grade or 11th, and then they get away from it all through the college years, and then they come back after that because now they had other things to do, which I don't blame them. And then when they come back and then they start watching again. Wrestling has a turnover rate of about, I heard one time, about 30%, 40% from year to year. I mean, the people that have dropped watching, they pick it back up again. And so what rating does WWE do? And you can't put anything on ratings now because they can't. Can they not convert it into people?
Right, so
viewers?
That's a very large, wide-reaching question, Dutch. Netflix doesn't really give global ratings for stuff. I mean, they do for Raw, but since they moved to Raw, domestic viewership is way down, and also international viewership is way down.
Well, but what I'm saying, how do they know that?
Well, that's a funny thing. For the most part, these streaming platforms don't actually give out the numbers. But because Raw is generally in the top 10, they do give out viewership ratings for the top 10 shows of the week.
So Raw is usually in that top 10?
Yeah, usually a 9 or 10 or something like that, but yeah.
I don't know. That's weird. Yeah. You used to get it almost down to the thousands. And you could say who beat who or who shot John or whatever.
Well, speaking of John, he wasn't shot, but John Cena made an announcement. John Cena announced, we all thought it was going to be something to do with Club WWE. That's some like online sign-up thing for pre-ticket sales, right? But it turned out to be that John Cena was there to announce the John Cena Classic. And we still don't know what most of it is, because apparently they don't know what it is either. All we know is that John Cena's come up with some kind of John Cena Classic.
I love that. We don't know what it is because we're assuming they don't know what it is either. And that's a possibility.
I think it is. I genuinely think they don't know what it is because we don't even know what the format is yet. But anyway, it's some sort of one-night event where WWE wrestlers and NXT wrestlers, main roster versus NXT, wrestle each other, right? But the winners aren't decided through wins or losses, traditionally in a wrestling match. So it doesn't matter if somebody wins or somebody loses. The winners are decided, or the winner, because we don't even know if it's a tournament format or if it's just individual matches, are decided by fan votes.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently there's going to be an entire event where all the winners are decided by fan votes, and then the one who gets the most votes wins the John Cena Classic Championship.
Okay, is this a TV event?
We think so, yes.
I'm thinking about that. Well, you won't have any, I don't think you won't have any heels winning it, because that almost eliminates the heels unless you put Danhausen in it. And then what if he in it?
Oh, no one's been announced. No one's been announced.
Okay, if he's in it, I think Danhausen could win it.
Well, yeah, Danhausen just win it every single year. Like, 20-time consecutive champion. Or Obafemi might win it.
I got a good idea for Danhausen.
What's that?
Okay. What about if you had, now this idea is coming from me, a Miss Danhausen?
I think he's married. I mean, I think there already is. In fact, she debuted along with Danhausen. She was one of Danhausen's dancers when he debuted on WWE television.
But do they know that, the fans?
Uh, well, I did.
I'm saying a little Danhausen, a little person dressed up like Danhausen. That's a hell of a story where he sees this little midget girl,
Right.
and he all of a sudden they get a shot of him. He's looking at her, and he's struck. He's struck with the love bug, and then you start the whole story about him dating her, and then all of a sudden it goes from in stages like a courtship would go, and then finally he has her in the ring, and he gets on the knee, and he presents her the ring, and she says yes, and then they go, and then you work your angle out of it, either at the marriage or leading up to it. I think that's a great idea.
Well, if this happens at the John Cena Classic, and then the fans could vote, should Danhausen get married or not?
Well, that's another one. I wouldn't put it. I wouldn't put it in the John Cena thing, but I would just run it alone by itself. To me, okay. I know it's bull. But yet they're telling the story, and I'm thinking, okay, how is this going to end? Because everybody's thinking that. Where is this leading? So if it's interesting enough, you will make time out of your week or day to watch the show. Because I've seen some segments on TV, the people just watch the show for that segment or whenever that match comes up. And then when it's over, they go about their business. Not that they just turn it off, but that's the only thing they watch. And I think this might be the one thing that might pull viewers in, is how this is going to end. I mean, you do everything, him taking her out on a date, him doing this, and he's trying to impress her. Then they go out and you follow them. And you can do all this in a couple of weeks, tell a good story about it. And then he asked her to marry him. Of course, the marriage is set for Raw or pay-per-view, and see where it leads. But
excuse me.
To me, I think creative would love that idea.
Just like a wedding story, don't you?
That's what it is. But you're doing it with little people, which makes it different. And they love Danhausen anyway. I saw him a long time ago. Now he was under contract by AEW, correct?
Yeah.
And they didn't know. I don't know whether Tony likes, entertaining stuff or not, but he could have done this same stuff in AEW, and I don't know how they missed the boat. Of course, it has to boil down to Tony Khan, because he may not have liked it, or he may not like the comedy stuff. But comedy stuff in wrestling has been around forever. And some people said, "Oh, I don't like that. Is that funny stuff?" I don't get it. People come to wrestling to be entertained. And they want to see something that they don't like a guy. They do like a guy. And they'll sit through the show. See, wrestling only used to be on a big show 5 matches. When it was 5 matches, that was kind of a big show. Then, of course, they took that idea, and then sometimes on these big shows or TV shows, they'd go 9 matches, 10 matches. I think by the time it was over, the people were just worn out. But you got to put something in there they really want to see. usually the main event, but that a Danhausen segment wouldn't be a main event, but it would be a big cause of people buying a ticket to see what they're going to do.
I want to give you some stuff about the John Cena thing. So here's why I think it's weird. I'm trying to think of any promotions you've been involved with, booking or otherwise, where they involve fan votes. They never did that in Memphis, did they?
No. Hell, they didn't even vote in general elections. No. That was, but well, the reason is, I'll give you the reason why. Now, and I'm going to defend the regional promotions because it took too much time and effort to count the votes. You'd have to do it by hand. So who was going to do that? And it's a big setup. And but on TV now it's electronically monitored. So as soon as they come in, you got it.
We will. I'm going to give you some reasons about the whole John Cena announcement thing that's weird. So for fan, it's entirely dealt with by fan votes, right? One, what's the point in trying to win? If the winner, so you might as well just like do all your biggest stuff and then like not even go for the win.
Okay, let's think about this. When is it? We don't even know when it is.
No, we don't.
So they will have to come up with a prize or a reward or some kind of condition that makes these guys want to look their best to win this, to win, I guess, the night. Doesn't matter whether you win or lose, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they may vote for somebody. If Danhausen lost, I think he'd still win it if he's in it. Mm-hmm. Oh, is it only a one-night deal?
Yeah.
One-night deal. How many matches?
No idea.
Okay.
We don't know the format. Once again, it could be a tournament. It could be individual matches. Here's another one.
This is what I'd do. Wait a minute. I want to make an adjustment right now.
Okay.
The matches are not... Your time limit for these matches have to be 10 minutes or under. You know? Because you can't keep putting your good stuff in like a long match because you may not be able to get them all in. But if you shorten it down, your best matches were going to go in, your best moves are going to go in that time segment.
There are other things. We don't know the criteria for fan voting. We don't know how the votes will be cast. We don't know if the votes will be charged. So therefore, only people who are willing to pay a price will actually vote.
What do you mean charge? What do you mean charge?
Oh, you mean like if it's like a text message or something to say $2, $1.99 to text this number and cast your vote kind of thing.
I think that would turn your voting into. I don't think the fans would like that. It's not like TKO needs money. You know what the highest ticket in Tampa was? I heard.
Cool.
It was way up top. I heard this. I don't know if it's true or not. $250.
Oh, for the worst seats.
That's what I heard. I don't know if it's true. Does that sound?
That sounds right. That sounds about right. Yeah.
I don't know. $250. Somebody wanted to charge me $250 for a seat, even an NFL game. I'd say you got to be crazy. I wouldn't pay $250 for that seat, but if they can get by with it, do it.
As you said before, why would heels participate in a popularity contest? It wouldn't make sense for anyone to even be part of it in the first place.
But you're supposed to turn a non-judgmental eye to whatever the guys are doing.
Will WWE try and manipulate the vote? Because you can always do that with pairing certain people together, not including certain people, that kind of. But the thing is, with the whole manipulation of the vote, like they tried doing it with Cyber Sunday and Taboo Tuesday back in the 2000s, is that it never worked. Fans would just vote for whoever they wanted to vote for, or they would just all get together and like protest vote somebody else. So it will never ever work if WWE tries to like nudge people to vote for certain people.
But nobody said it was a true vote anyway.
Oh yeah, will it be fake?
Hey, a vote that is manipulated. That would be a good thing for Danhausen to do. Or if Danhausen was a heel, he could just put a curse on it and it'd all go to zero. And that could be a finish. All of a sudden, this guy that nobody thought had a chance, he wins it. Which gets the people thinking, no, they manipulated that vote.
And John Cena's social media response was this. When asked to give advice, especially with WWE, I often reply to be authentic, do not fear failure, know your why. The John Cena Classic may not be perfect by any means, yet it's authentically me and reflects my values and beliefs. I'm aware that there is a risk it might be a total failure, and I'm not afraid of that and believe it's still worth stepping in the arena. My why in WWE is to consistently be as useful as possible as long as possible. With my in-ring career at an end, why is to use whatever energy or relevance I have left in hopes to create a launchpad of opportunity for all talent to show their skills, etc., etc. But once again, no one's actually explained what this is. So, and I genuinely don't think anyone quite knows how this is going to go.
But when is this?
No, we don't know. We don't know. They've not even come up with the time.
Well, you got time for them to figure out the ins and outs of it. And who knows? It may catch on and do a great number.
We're going to move on. I just wanted to ask your opinion very quickly on the Sami Zayn gingerbread man funeral from last Friday. So this has been going on for a few weeks. It's kind of weird in the sense that Sami Zayn is like the heel despite the fact he's not really doing anything very heelish, and Trick Williams is the babyface despite not really being a babyface. And they keep calling, because Sami Zayn's ginger, and then there's the gingerbread man to mock him. And then they had a mock funeral on Friday on SmackDown, which you watched, and Dutch, this was the main event of the show.
It was the main event of SmackDown.
Yes.
Well, I watched it. Now, let me kind of validate this. I didn't know what was going on because I'm not watching the shows as regularly as I should be. So, but the gingerbread man, when did that start?
A few weeks ago.
Okay. But gingerbread man died because they were having a funeral for him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Sami Zayn knows that it's in pure mockery of himself.
Mm-hmm.
So I will, even I didn't know the purpose of it, but I found it entertaining. But then I found out that the guy that came out, and who was he?
That was a Little Yachty. That's Trick Williams' kind of second at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And they didn't turn, they attacked Sami Zayn. See, what I thought he was going to come out and it would be somebody else and they would turn on Trick Williams. That's what I would think. Don't they want Sami Zayn to heel?
I guess so.
But as a way, like you said, they like Trick Williams, and I mean, they don't like Trick Williams. And anyway, to me, it's in reverse. Until they reverse that, I think they're going to have a problem with it. Because I like the setup. I like how they did it, and it was different, totally different. I've never seen a funeral like that in the ring. And I liked his little semi-rap song he did. It was pretty good. It was entertaining. But if I'd have started watching that, I wouldn't have left it. Say, like I'm a casual fan, and when I see that and the casket in the ring, and I'm saying to myself, this is different. Let's see how this ends. But they would have kept me tuned in, but I don't know if that helped the angle or not.
Has there ever been a coffin?
What saith you, James?
I was going to ask you, has there ever been a coffin in wrestling without somebody jumping out of it?
Oh, I don't remember that many coffins in wrestling anyway.
Well, there's The Undertaker. There's loads in WCW for whatever reason. There's loads in AEW as well, here, there, and everywhere, and someone always jumps out. I was thinking it's kind of like the cake rule. If a cake is brought in on a wrestling show,
Well, you know it's going
somebody's
in
face
somebody's
must
face.
be in it.
Oh yeah, you know that, and there's probably some more things you could use along that line. But yeah, you know, a coffin. Somehow I didn't know anything about it, but I knew the guy in the coffin was going to come up. He was going to come out and get out and do something, and it did. But I think whoever originated that idea, you told me that Trick and Sami are reversed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trick's supposed to be the babyface.
No, Trick's supposed to be the heel who's cheered.
Oh,
That's what's
Trick
so confusing about it.
Heel.
Yeah, because
Sami was the babyface.
Yeah, that was the only match at Backlash that I thought was a bit of a dud, because everyone's kind of treading water and the lines are not like clearly established, and they haven't been for many weeks.
Well, let me say this: I enjoyed the segment, and it might make me pay more attention to it. I don't know.
Right.
So we'll see.
You talked about the thing that Shawn Michaels is about to make mention of here, or has done, and I'm going to read the quotes. And this is regarding, I guess, the limitations of NXT and the limitations of wrestlers these days compared to back in the territory days, which obviously you grew up in, and so did Shawn as well. So this is what Shawn Michaels said on NXT training issues. And it's not just the reps. This is also comparing today than even 10 years ago. The world has changed. Life has changed. We've evolved. We've grown. We understand everything that's negative is not out of weakness. It might be out of something else that's triggering that emotion out of that individual. And as opposed to just crapping on it, let's just try and figure out how we can help them through this. But what has helped is because of my past and the road that I've travelled, it makes me uniquely equipped to deal with a lot of these, or even any of these issues. To be able to say you're scared, you're worried, you're lonely, that's okay. To be able to say some of these things and know that's okay, you're not going to be mocked, you're not going to be ridiculed, you're not going to be made fun of. This is kind of in response to trainers of the past where, you know, you couldn't voice any concerns, you couldn't look worried, you couldn't look out of your depth at any point. How much has training, or as far as the culture of wrestling schools, come since you started training, I guess is the question.
How much is what?
You know, the culture of training up new wrestlers compared to today, compared to back in your day, because one, there weren't really any schools when you started, and two, I can't imagine that your trainer would be that empathetic to you compared to now.
Well, the next question I think you should ask is, who trained me? And guess who trained me? I trained actually myself, because I would go to shows and I had been in the ring before with a guy from, I think he was from Chile somehow, and he had been a wrestler there, so he was trying to show me some stuff, but he didn't speak English. I didn't speak Chilean or Spanish, I guess. So I really learned this business by just watching it. And you can do that as long as you have a ring finally to get in there and see how you got to condition your body, because it's a tough sport. It really is. When you start taking these bumps, you start taking slams, you start taking suplexes, you start taking, slams off the top rope and all this kind of stuff. It is a lot of wear and tear on your body. But if you pay attention to it and you know where to place it, and if you're young, it's a young man's business, period. Guys who are 30, a little bit older, it's kind of late to start. And you have to train your body to take this punishment, because that's what it is. So even back in the days, you didn't make any money. You got some experience, but you didn't make any money. You didn't lose any money, but you didn't. It was more like a hobby than anything else. But learning this business, you can have a trainer, and a trainer will have one way to do it, and any other way is wrong. Now, I've seen some guys, I know the move. Oh, when's the last time you saw a bill?
I know, yeah. Done properly. Well, you're going to say.
Okay, when's the last time you saw it?
I mean, I don't know really. It's not really a move you kind of
Right.
pay too much
It's
attention.
kind of a move. It's kind of a move that's been removed. They've just taken it out. But even though they've taken it out, a guy tried to give me a bill one time, and he took his hand and put it under my arm here. Like he was going to try to throw me that way. Okay, the first off is the aerodynamics of it, I guess, because when he throws me like this, I can't go anywhere. I can't get any distance. I can't get any height. And I told the guy, I said, the next time you do that, put it down, your whole arm underneath my arm. Right here. Now, when he throws me, now he can put some power behind it. Now I can get some height. But the old timers, I mean, the people now always, you don't see it much, but they do it like this. They still do it. I think they do it in training, which is totally, totally wrong. So that's the main thing, because you used to see a bill lot matches back in my time. You'd see that a lot. And I tried this one time with an old timer. I didn't know you're supposed to put the arm down. This is how I learned. I tried to put my arm there, and he went, whoop, whoop. And next thing I know, he slapped me across the face, spun me around, and give me one. But he gave it to me the right way. So when he got back in the dressing room, he knew I was green. And I said, and he came up to me. He said, I guess you wonder what that slap was for. I said, well, yeah, it kind of crossed my mind. He said, kid, don't do that. Because, and he told me, don't put this hand underneath the armpit. He said, because that is the first sign that you're inexperienced. And another old timer, if you try to do it that way, he knows now you're not experienced. And this is your time to learn. So the next time you give that, put the arm there. So when they come out, they're taking a bump, you're pushing them, and they can get some height and distance out of it. A bill done right is good. I've seen guys sail from one turnbuckle to the next in a big ring. That's a long way. I saw one night, two guys in a bill match. They tried to outdo each other, who could go the furthest, and he had the dressing room watch. And man, those guys were getting some distance and getting some height on it. I mean, they didn't overdo it. They only give about 2 or 3 in the match at different times. And the people were enjoying it. So, and that's how guys mostly learned back in the day. They didn't go to a training class and have an instructor. You actually got in the ring with another guy, and of course you'd have to be in the ring with another guy training before you got there. But that's how I learned.
This is what Shawn...
I learned on the job training.
Well, that's exactly what Shawn's going to get to as well. I'm going to make mention. These kids come into NXT, and in 6 months they have to be like main roster ready, and they don't have this opportunity. They don't get the chance as much. That's kind of where I'm going with the question is, how do they get those reps? Certainly they're not working 9 times a week. It's very challenging. So Shawn, what he'd said beforehand was that his first week in the business at Mid-South, he was wrestling 9 times a week. He was doing twice on Saturday, twice on Sunday, and then doing all the driving as well. Once again, back to Shawn, I can remember being asked, How long do you think it takes to get one of these athletes that doesn't know anything to get them totally ready for the main roster in WWE? And I said, honestly, to get them ready to what I think is adequate to be ready for the main roster, I said 3 years. And they said, really? You can't get them done any faster? And I was like, well, I mean, I guess we can, but not to where I want them or where they need to be. And Shawn's kind of in a tough spot, really, in the sense that he's getting a lot of pressure, wanting a lot quicker turnover. But the fact is that, well, NXT does have house shows. They do maybe like 8 a month, something like that. So they'll do a couple every weekend, really. But between like the NXT roster's like 50 people, and they've probably got way more than that signed that don't regularly appear on NXT or just performance trainees or whatever like that. They've got way more of those. Not everyone's going to be on every house show. So, I mean, where do those reps come in? And ultimately, it's nowhere.
Well, how many guys do they have in NXT?
As I say, like 50 on the main roster, but like way more than that are on Level Up or LFG or Evolve or not even on television yet. They'll have a couple of hundred probably.
Okay, if he got them ready for the main roster, the question is, where are they going to put them? They can't, this is not my business, but if they guys sign 3-year contracts, that position, supposedly is not going to turn over for 3 years.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. 3 years, a 3-year contract is one way.
So if
that's
if
TKO or WWE wants to keep you for 3 years.
Yeah, if they put a guy there, and what are they going to do? Just leave him at home all the time? That's not the purpose of for him training. What they're looking for somebody that catches their eye, that like Danhausen, that has an immediate, effect upon you. You see him, and he's a wrestler. And I will say one thing: Danhausen's probably the smartest one of them all. He took that. Did he start? I need to know more about his history. How did he start in wrestling?
Who's this? Shawn?
No, Danhausen.
I don't know. Just on the indies. I have no idea how he starts.
But without the gimmick, right?
Yeah, I think the gimmick came later. Yeah.
Okay, and the reason is because he wasn't big enough. He wasn't impressive enough. He wasn't good enough in an actual wrestling setting to be involved with any roster in NXT or WWE or Evolve or take it on down. He might have been lucky to get booked on an independent show. But now when he figured out, well, I'll try this and see if it works. Well, it did work. He was with AEW for 3 years.
4.
4?
Oh, yeah.
And you never saw him, did you?
Yeah, he had just a little over a dozen matches in 4 years. I mean, he was for the last year, he wasn't on TV at all, not once. He was injured at some point for a significant portion of time, but yeah, they just kept him off TV for ages.
Yeah, well, that's a gimmick you have to put on TV. The people have to see it. You have to advertise it. You got to say, hey, this guy's here. He's with us. But now WWE is doing the right thing with him. They're not overusing him, but they're using him in the right spots. So I think he is a type of guy who figured out his limitations early. And guys, you have to do this. If you want to be a wrestler, you either got to be 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2". You got to have some size. Because those smaller guys, as they say, are a dime a dozen and do fantastic things. But it's not what you can do, it's what the booker sees, what he can do with you. Danhausen, on the other hand, said, here I am. Figure it out. And everybody's brain starts turning over when you see Danhausen. What can I do with him? And you immediately know that he's a conversation piece, and the way he talks, he did all that on his own. So I applaud him for figuring that out, and he's going to have a long run there.
One more thing that Shawn says, this is something you've said as well, is, quote, We've got a few people down there that have more experience, but it's young on young. So even if they're having great conversations in the car, you don't know how much they're actually learning or growing in that respect. They're doing their best. So I did a video on this a few days earlier, and I referenced what you had said, is that aside from the reps, the greatest education you can get is in the car rides in between the towns.
No. And this is how I learned the business too. I would ride with these old timers, and they would be, I'm the topic of conversation because I've just started and I didn't know a lot of stuff. And so, and they would start by berating the hell out of me. You were awful. You were terrible. You didn't even walk to the ring right. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. Then the first beer would be down. And I'd be saying, yeah, you know what? I wasn't saying nothing because what can I say? Now they loosened up a little bit and they said, okay, kid. Then they would start instructing me. You need to do this and you need to do that. And you need to, it was how to stand in the ring, how to go to the ring. It was just simple stuff. But they all watched the match. Funny, they don't know me, but they all watched my match. And there were 4 in a car. 3 of them would have, sometimes opposing views on what I needed to do. But I learned it through trial and error and listening to those guys. And that's the way I learned the business. So, but I don't know who is telling these guys now what to do or who the trainer is. But the students usually reflect the views of the trainer because they have to do what he has suggested. Otherwise, you're not listening. So I think that this is almost a free-spirited training, that there's certain ways to do things and there's certain ways you can adapt to yourself, but you have to do that yourself. So, and what was your question is, do they get the reps or?
Well, no. Well, I mean, they obviously don't get the reps, but because they're not getting the reps, they're also not traveling from town to town and getting that knowledge in the car. And also because there's no veterans on the NXT roster, or not many.
Yep. See, I suggested one time, I said, why don't you have some of these writers travel with some of the guys? And they said that is a strict no-no. This is years ago now. And I never figured out what the no-no was. I said, I don't know why they don't want a writer to try to ride with some of the guys, because some of the older guys would try to give, examples of what they've done before in other territories. And, one thing they told me about a writer, most of them knew almost zero about pro wrestling. And that struck me as like, what? Why would they do that? And they told me they had a reason for it. They said, we want them to look at it with a fresh new pair of eyes and brain. I said, okay, that's a good reason, but I don't know if it works or not. So you guys can try it. But I think most of your ideas get transferred or relayed to the writer by a talent who has done it before, knows how it works. He knows the mechanical dealings with it and what to do. And I think they'd learn from that. Now, a lot of interviews they used to write, and I never was one in the dressing room. When they gave me an interview, it'd be written down. And I asked one guy, I just said out loud in the dressing room, I need to change some of this. I said, oh no, don't change a word in that. I went, really? Because then the story got to me that Vince had the interview in front of him and he was listening to you give the interview while reading what was written down for you to say. And they said, don't change a word. Don't even change an and or a but. Don't do nothing. So I went to the ring, since I've been hit on the head a couple 100,000 times. And I took that interview and not purposely, not on purpose, I just didn't deliver the interview that was written, but hell, I couldn't remember it. So I would start doing my interview that was the same thing that the interview said, but in a different voice, in my voice. And I came back and Vince, good interview. So, and the writer was standing there like, I swear to God, he was standing over there like this, like he was thinking that Vince was going to say, that was not the interview we gave you, blah, blah. But he didn't say anything and said, good interview, and shook my hand. And I turned around, went to go down. There he was. There's the writer. And I went, what? And he went, so he dodged the bullet. But anyway, you know, some of those interviews, you know, you can't give them verbatim because that's not the way certain people talk. Give the Rock an interview. See if he does it. He won't do. Give Steve Austin an interview. See if he does it. He don't do it. He does. Steve Austin. The Rock does The Rock. That's what got him there.
Okay, then away from Backlash and all that kind of thing, some kind of non-wrestling news, but related to wrestling, of course. You remember Raja Jackson, the guy who attacked that independent wrestler, knocked him out, and then punched his unconscious head in about 20 times?
Yes, I do.
He was finally sentenced, Dutch, would you believe? Or basically, he pled no contest.
Was he sentenced in total?
Right.
Or he still got another sentencing coming up in
June?
No.
That's in total. So this is what I'll read you the entire thing. Raja Jackson, the son of UFC legend Quinton Rampage Jackson, cut a deal with prosecutors to close out his criminal case on Wednesday. The 26-year-old pled no contest to one felony count of battery with serious bodily injury at a preliminary hearing setting after striking the agreement with officials. Raja also admitted to 2 special investigations, including personal infliction of great bodily injury and engaging in violent conduct. Raja is slated to be sentenced in late June, and the rep for the district attorney's office in LA told the New York Post his anticipated sentence is 90 days actual county jail and restitution of $81,703.38 and 2 years formal probation. So a big fine and 90 days in county jail. That is going to be his punishment.
Oh, the 81,000 was a fine or restitution?
Restitution.
That's because of the guy that got beat up, his expenses.
I suspect it'll go to Psycho Stu, yeah.
Well, he'll file bankruptcy before he pays that.
I'm suspecting his father will pay for him.
Well, 81,000 is actually cheap. Don't you think?
Yeah, considering it was basically attempted murder. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and he couldn't remember anything, and he messed his brain up and everything else. 81,000 is dirt cheap.
And then 90 days in county jail. He won't even serve that. He'll leave. He'll get a third of that whittled off for good behavior, no doubt.
He'll get 2/3 of that. He'll serve about 30 days. And they'll let him out. There's something wrong with that kid anyway, right?
Yeah, there must be. But
is he autistic or what?
I don't know what his problem is. But, I mean, I'm not sure it's an autism thing. I think he's just psychotic. He was trying to claim that he had a concussion, whatnot, but... I mean, 90 days just feels like nothing. That's the thing. You know, he intentionally attacked some guy.
I thought he would get at least a year, 18 months.
I thought that would have been too little if it was a year. I thought he was looking at 2 or 3, but realistically, he should have got 5 or 6.
Well, I think that what was the guy's name he beat up?
He's called Psycho Stu.
I think Psycho Stu had to agree to it.
I don't think he has. No, he didn't. He never pressed charges. This is coming from the state. So Stu never pressed charges. He never wanted to press charges.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Keep in mind also that he ended up with memory loss, severe concussion, half of one side of his teeth smashed in, blood coming from his ears, the whole bit. I mean, you know, it was a sustained, prolonged attack, blindside attack as well. So, you know, the whole thing that led up to it. I mean, I can tell you very. All right, basically, it was a misunderstanding. Stu apologized. The other, Raja Jackson, didn't want to accept the apology. And then one of the owners of the school, Black Pearl, Rikishi wasn't there. Black Pearl said, "Oh, you can get your revenge in the ring," and somebody else explained to him, "Oh, you can get your revenge in the ring, and this is what you can do." Blah blah blah. And basically, on a live stream, live on the internet for all to see, spends 2 hours colluding and plotting and planning to attack Stu and admitting it all on camera, and then beating him up all on camera, and this was premeditated, like serious bodily injury assault, and he still got only 90 days county jail. It's like, what do you need to do to get any kind of realistic, like?
I have no idea, but yeah, the 90 days surprised me. I said, that's like 3 months, but he'll get out after 30 probation. And like you said, you thought he'd get a couple of years, right?
Yeah, but I thought that would have been too little. If he got 2 years, that would have not been satisfactory, I don't think.
What would have been satisfactory with you?
At least 4.
Well, I would have said I wouldn't go that high. I'd say 2. But what if he'd have killed him? He could have went to jail for life, right?
No, they probably would have given him 180 days and a slap on the wrist and doubled the fine, apparently. Apparently they don't believe in proper sentences in California.
You should get 30 days for a beer in the car. You get 30 days. So next time, don't have a beer in the car. Anyway, the justice system is in dire need of a rehaul in the United States.
It depends on the state, I guess, because Florida still metes out some pretty hefty sentences.
If that happened in Texas, the kid would have got 3 years. Or Florida. Tennessee, they're kind of strict with it. Alabama, down south, they're kind of much more strict on punishment than the other states like California and New York.
I think that for that kind of crime, they absolutely should be as well. Like 90 days is a joke.
Yep, it is.
All
I'm
right.
agreeing with you.
Let's move on. The New Day quit WWE over pay cuts. So this happened while we would have talked about this last week, but we couldn't record last week. So the New Day rejected WWE's offer to take a 50% pay cut and instead chose to walk away. There was speculation of how many other talent had been asked to take pay cuts, and the latest reports we understand are about 6 talents. Now, these talents are people who have been with the company a long time, not tippy-top guys, but established names that for whatever reason WWE creative just aren't using at the moment or don't see any long-term future with.
So how many guys did they approach for this?
About 6. Reduction? About 6 for a 50%
nothing.
pay cut.
They got 80 guys. That's 6 is nothing.
Yeah, well, I mean, they released a load of them as well. So they released a load of people they had no plans for. They approached 6 talents who they didn't have much use for, I guess, that were on high wages, high contracts. The New Day had signed a 5-year deal just last year. Mm-hmm. And once again, it's always been the way with WWE contracts, it's always one way. WWE can cut you whenever they want. You can't leave whenever you want, kind of thing.
But it's always been that way.
Yeah.
Always, because WWE, they do always hold the upper edge in the negotiations and even on the contracts, because the contracts are just, rewriting of the agreements. But so who were the other four? Does anybody know?
No, we don't know. There was a theory going around. I don't know if it holds any water whatsoever, that one of the names was Asuka, because she is pretty well established with WWE, but then I don't know if you saw this. I guess you didn't. A lot of people were apparently congratulating or wishing well Asuka, because it was said that she was either going to go into semi-retirement or whatever it was. And one of the theories was that maybe she's going into semi-retirement is because that she's accepted a pay cut and therefore she's not going to be in the company as long, or as many dates per year kind of thing.
And who was this?
Asuka, the Japanese girl.
Oh, okay, I got it. I thought you said Oscar. I'm trying to remember.
Well, basically they say Oscar. I know, so I'm trying to go Asuka, to make it slightly different. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we don't know the other names. But here's the question for you, Dutch, is, apparently AEW and a lot of people in AEW, MJF, FTR, that kind of, they're all really keen to get the New Day, Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods over to AEW. WWE had signed them just a year earlier to $1 million plus contracts each per year. So they were on big money.
Yeah.
If you were them, what would you do? Because WWE want to pay you half the money. Maybe they want to give you even less dates, which is a different thing. But also, if you accept that, then you're kind of accepting that you're going to be in a company that has no plans for you. So therefore, do you just take the money and run? Or do you take a risk, hope that AEW picks you up and pays you the same or more money or whatever it might be?
First of all, these guys are not in dire need of money. They have made money. The whole time they've been there, they made good money. So when they issue them or a pay cut, it's a business. So you have to accept it as a business. I don't think there's anything, and I like those guys, but I put myself in creative shoes. And I want you to think about this, and I want everybody listening to this to think about this. What would you do with those guys today? What would you do with them?
Well, they turned heel just before.
They turned heel in what?
Late 2024, they turned heel. And then WWE, they didn't really do anything with them after that, for the most part. But the thing is that you can surely blame creative more than you can the New Day. They're kind of just a victim of nobody having an idea or following through with them.
Okay, for the disdain that I hold creative in is because they're not experienced in wrestling. They're just writers. And they're probably good at writing or they wouldn't be in that position. But New Day, the people have become accustomed and have been covered up with the New Day being, just silly guys, and they kind of like them, and it was three of them, and so. But I don't think there's nothing to dislike about them. I don't think you could go out there and have them do an interview, even when you talk bad about the fans. I think the fans would just say, nah, that wasn't any good. They wouldn't say like in the back, boy, I didn't get over. The fans would say, okay, they're trying to make them bad guys. Hey, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. And actually, when the crowd sees and when the fans see exactly what you're trying to do, they will go out of their way to make it fail. So when they send them to the ring and they're supposed to be bad guys, they will cheer the hell out of them. Actually, more than they probably cheered them as New Day. Just to show creative, hey, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And that's what they did. I don't think there's no way, because wrestling, hey, let's face it, it's 2026. And didn't people figure out wrestling like in the 80s? Like, especially when the internet came out, didn't they kind of figure the whole business out? Now that they can see what you're trying to do, and it hits them right away. Nope, we're not doing it. And they would actually, like I said, go out of their way to cheer these guys where they want you booing them. I don't think they could make you dislike them. Could you see any reason or any way they can make the New Day heels with the fans as it is today?
Do you think it just seemed forced? Like a forced refresh that people were really buying?
Because they were okay, they should have told New Day, listen, your old act is kind of old, and we want to see if we can do anything with it. So the first thing, without changing any money arrangements, they tried to turn them heel. That flopped, and it bounced back toward them. So they tried to turn them heel. That didn't work. So, and this is what I think. I think they said, all right, we'll try to turn them heel, see if that works. That didn't work. Okay, because we need to do something with them. And let's take half their money away. They're sending a signal. Okay, we're going to take half your salary. Really? And then say, or either that or, we can't use you anymore. And so they didn't accept that. So they're on their way.
Well, that's what I was asking you.
AEW, I don't know what AEW could do with them, unless if they had some red hot heels, they might bring them in then. But if they're not a permanent part of the roster, they'll beat them over there and let them go.
Well, it's kind of a bit weird, that, in the sense that they can't use the New Day, they can't use Xavier Woods or Kofi Kingston. So what the heck are they even going to be called when they go over there? They're so established as They're basically WWE lifers, which I think that's why people were so stunned. Because I guess there's almost like a sacred do not fire list, like R-Truth. And they're finding out that, but see, those guys have made big money for basically, and I like those guys. I'm more power to them, but they have made big money for doing nothing. They're making big money just to be on the roster, not doing, anything really of substance, but yet whatever the TKO does or WWE does or whatever, they still get paid. And they can stay home and they don't have any wear and tear on their bodies, just going to the gym and being associated with WWE, which is really going to benefit those guys later on. And when they go, and that's on their resume that they were with WWE, then the people look at them a little differently. And a lot of people, I think a lot of corporations would hire one of them to just be there and just be on their roster or be an employee when they can say, well, this guy used to be with WWE and we got him. So that makes that guy different. But we'll see. And I don't blame them. They're probably worn out. They're tired of the business, and maybe just not tired of it, just tired of being around it. Mm-hmm. Did they have to go to TV every week, do you think? That's a good question. I suspect that maybe they... I don't know, is the answer. Maybe they did. I don't know. They weren't the only people who left, that day, because New Day were announced as not coming to an agreement with WWE. But also, WWE released JC Mateo and Tonga Loa. So they were both with the MFTs. And quite frankly, formerly Jeff Cobb, JC Mateo, they had big plans for him for about 5 seconds. And then he was just another guy on the roster. He was just another face in the crowd. And like with the MFTs, all of them were painting the face. And JC Mateo looked the most ridiculous with his face paint. But then also, I've written Tonga Loa. Which one is it? I think it's Tonga Loa. Tonga Loa. It is Tonga Loa who's been released as well. So it's... along with that, it's just kind of killing off the tag team division.
Tonga Loa was a part of the Samoan clan.
Yeah, so it's Tonga Loa, Tama Tonga, and Tala Tonga.
See, and we've actually complained about this before. Too many of them. Too many is worse than not being enough. Because where are you going to put the emphasis? And WWE is not, they haven't concentrated on factions for forever. Tell you the truth, I don't ever remember them having a salvageable faction there. But there was too many Samoans there. I bet there's 10 or 12. 10 or 12, and you think of a roster, they got 100 guys or 80 guys, but 10 or 12 guys out of 40, that's 25% of your workload, 25% of your roster. But you can't put them out there too much because, they just get, I don't know, they hurt each other by the numbers of them. So why did they get rid of, what was the guy's name that was a part of them?
Jason Mateo and Tongaloa.
Yeah, Jason Mateo.
Well, they didn't have anything for him. They just brought him in, promised him a load of stuff, followed through with none of it, and then he was just like the lowest guy on the totem pole in the MFTs for a year. He was just there. That was it.
Well,
and he's good as well.
Well, yeah, if you could isolate him, and he wasn't covered up with all the other Samoans. See, that hurts anybody's chances of getting over when you got 10 more Samoans sitting in the dressing room. I think every Samoan that ever got a check from them should say, I'm lucky to get a check with them from them for 3 years. But if they hadn't have been so many, they could have maybe stretched that out to 6 years to 10 and see what they would do. But the wrestling has always been short term. Very few territories back in the day kept people like that. And they would only be like 3 or 4 or maybe 5 of them who have been with the territory for years and years and years. The other guys would come in and out, and that's the way it worked. They'd rotate them.
The timing of this, it didn't go unnoticed, Dutch. But the timing with all these releases also coincided with the first quarter 2026 reports, which said that the top 3 executives in TKO and Nick Khan, between those 4, gave themselves over $90 million raise from the year prior. So the timing of that didn't really come out all the best.
Yeah, the timing was wrong when they mentioned the salaries of the top guys. But that's what I've always heard about wrestling. They would say, don't get comfortable because you're not going to be here that long. All of a sudden, a year's gone by, a year and a half, and it's time for you to go. Because not only did you got older a lot quicker in the territories than what you would in WWE, because in the territories, you were in the same town every week for 52 weeks. Not only were you on the TV, you were on the house show for 52 weeks. And that kind of identifies why you had to work so many angles. You had to work angles unless or a guy would get old a lot quicker than what he did. So that's why you would see a heel go to territory, and all of a sudden he'd take the title, and people would be shooting at him for the title. And I don't think they had any really long-term plans back in the territory days because they weren't structured that way. They maybe had a plan for the next 2 weeks, and those plans could be easily readjusted and realigned. And they would say, well, we could do this and this and this and this, and they would come up with something. But your time went a lot faster in the territories than they do now.
Britt Baker.
Okay, well, Tongaloa, or what was his name?
Tongaloa.
No, the other one.
JC Mateo. Thing is, they even gave him a crappy name. That's the thing.
First time I heard it, JC Mateo, I said, that sounds like a cab driver in St. Louis. JC Mateo. I didn't get it. I didn't have a Samoan. I don't know what he was supposed to be, tell you the truth. But he didn't have a good name, and his work was okay. But how long was he there? 3 years?
No, one. Pretty much
One
exactly a
year.
year. Yeah.
1 year. So what did they want to do with him? Give him a pay cut or just let him
No,
go?
they just let him go. Best we know.
Okay, when they let him go, what are they responsible for paying him? A month's salary?
No, 90 days salary.
Oh, okay. Well, that's better than what I would think. But anyway, good luck, Mr. Mateo.
Right.
Good luck on your travels.
Right, let's talk about Britt Baker briefly. So Mark Henry said the following about her. I think Britt Baker's future lies in dentistry. She is one that a lot of people had issues with, and I think the business right now in AEW's women's division is doing really well and doesn't need to be disrupted. Let it exist the way it is right now. If she indeed comes back and conforms to whatever system she's coming to, more power to you. But until I see that happen, I'm not going to believe it. I mean, from everything you've heard, and from people in the company as well, how can one person just be that difficult to work with, apparently?
Well, I think she maybe. Now, I don't know if she was or not. I'm just hearing, just bits and pieces of it. But it's very rare for somebody to be that disliked and still continue to make shows or whatever she did up to she left. Now, she has been released.
She has not been released. She is still with the company despite not making a single appearance in 18 months.
Well, that's because she's not booked, or she would have to make appearances. And I think if she was booked and she didn't make the appearance, well, that's a big screw you to Tony. And I think Tony would say, "Hey, if you're going to do it that way, then you're gone," and he'd get rid of her. But yeah, I think she kind of went back there and built her own little cavern back in there and thought she was over people and tried to tell people what to do. From what I've heard, I've never met the girl, so I can't say. But when I first started watching AMW, she was like the first girl that I saw. But anyway, what did she say in essence when what you just read?
Well, she's fallen out with lots of people in the back. She was having issues with Thunder Rosa, Jamie Hayter, MJF, and these are only the ones that were made public. It's fallen out with other people apparently, and just generally causing a headache, I guess. And
yeah, I'm agreeing with Mark. I think her future does lie in dentistry because she would have to make a complete almost a 180 turn and go back and to where she was before.
Let me ask you this, Dutch. Who was the most difficult person that you had to book that you couldn't get rid of? That was like permanently there for one reason or another, and you kind of just had to put up with them. Who was the most difficult person in that respect?
Who was that?
I'm asking you, like, what wrestler you were in charge of delegating stories or matches or finishes or whatever, and they were always difficult to deal with.
Well, I wasn't in the loop, so around Vince and around the agents to tell which one of them were hard to work with. But the ones who were really hard were delegated to Vince McMahon himself, and he'd set them straight. He wasn't afraid to tell them that if you don't like it, there's the door and you can get in it. But he said he'd want them to be known that the money you signed for won't be coming. So if you want to separate, we can do it. Because it's according to, and that of course depends on who is putting the pressure on him. I think Cena is a politician, and you have to be a politician to be in this business. The Undertaker was a politician because they approached Vince in a manner of respect. And they would say, hey, I'm not doing that stupid crap. No, they don't go in there like that. They would go in there and they say, can I talk to you a minute? They said, yeah, yeah. And then they would go in there and they would make their case civilly and with respect. And more times than not, Vince would take their side. And I've heard him say, well, if you think of it that way, maybe that's something I didn't figure in it. And he says, you're right. Most of the time, if they went about it that way and played politics and talked to Vince straight up, they would get it changed. And most of the time I heard that, their ideas were better than what some guy on creative came up with, or even Vince. Vince could tell creative to write it out. And when they would write it out, they would actually miss a big point. And Vince, he's reading so much every week, he could get by. But those guys got things done. And other guys, if they go in there and they're kind of mad. Who was the guy who left not too long ago? A big muscled up guy. And what was his name? Oh, I bet I said big muscled up guy.
It's not really narrowing it down too much. From who? Powerhouse Hobbs? We talking AEW?
No, he just got signed. This guy had been there a couple of years.
Are you talking in WWE?
WWE.
I'm drawing a blank, man.
Bald head. He's about 6 foot tall.
Oh, Killer Cross. No, he's got loads of hair.
No, he got let go 3 years ago or more.
Not Braun Strowman.
No, not him. God, I can't think of his name. Big muscled up guy, bald head. And he had a saying too. I forgot what he said. I don't know.
I'm going to pause this. We're going to figure this out. One sec. Okay, we figured it out. It was
Feed Me was his name.
Feed Me More. Ryback was the name. Right, so Ryback, Dutch.
They had turned him babyface, right?
Yep.
And they did something. They wanted to get rid of him. And what was I saying about him, though? That ties into what I was saying.
Was it people who we were talking about people who were difficult to book.
Oh, that's right. He was difficult. From what I heard, now I never had anything to do with him, but I've heard, just stories, guys bitching about working with him, and they didn't like to work with him. And I don't think he would be the easiest guy to work with anyway, because those muscled up guys, it's like being in a street fight with them sometimes.
We are going to move on, Dutch. We've got a couple more things, and then we've got to end it on Ted Turner as well. But before we get to Ted Turner, I wanted to just briefly mention Jake Hager, your former protege, or
yes.
Charge, your former Charge, Jack Swagger. He's returning to wrestling. He quotes, "We will be making his return to the Quadrilaterals in the 53rd anniversary on Saturday, June 27th at Roberto Clemente Coliseum in San Juan." Read the announcement. You've been there once or twice before, Dutch. Did you get Jake this gig?
No, I didn't. But we went down there one time as he was a talent and I was, of course, the manager. But I was hurt by that time. I had trouble actually just walking to the ring, really. But no, he got it on his own. And he'll do good there. What's the name of the show?
I don't know. I mean, it's Puerto Rico, so
Quadrilaterus. You said
that might be. I don't know.
It's 4 rings, I think.
Maybe. I don't know what the
4
company
rings.
is, but I'm presuming it's for Carlos Colon.
Oh yeah, WWC.
Yeah, I think I presume so.
WWC. That's Carlos. So.
Yeah,
Did they say who he's against?
It doesn't say who's against. I'll just read this. WWC in Puerto Rico announced Sunday Jake Hager is returning. Hager, best known, blah, blah, blah. That's pretty much it. He just says he's returning. It's not saying his opponent yet, but it is World Wrestling Council.
Yep. That's Carlos. That's the Colognes.
Yeah. Right.
But I don't. But I heard something about Carlos that he has very little to do with it now.
I suspect so. I mean, didn't you? I thought he had Parkinson's, or he was not
He
very
does,
well.
and I think he's in a wheelchair. He really can't walk like me. I think he's in a wheelchair, and he has what makes your hand tremble like this.
Yeah, Parkinson's. Yeah.
Yeah, he has that. And when I talked to him the last time was about 3 years ago, or maybe a little more. Yeah, he wasn't in the best of shape then. And I heard they're going somewhere. They're moving. Him and his wife are moving. They're moving to the States because of treatment. I think that's what he's coming for. But anyway, I love Carlos. He's always been good to me, except when we got in that fight that time and I hit him in the head with a 2x4. Other than that, we've gotten along great. But he's a good guy, and the family is a good family. I like all the boys. And you would think that I think Carlos, he raised them right for the wrestling business. And actually, Carlitos, the son, he got in the business because of me, or he got in the business at that time because, and I've told that story. I asked him one time, I said, you ever thought about getting in the wrestling business? He went, no. I said, what? You never thought about it? No. He said, I don't want to get in the wrestling business. He didn't want to get into it because he just said he didn't like it or something. And I said, well, and that might explain his deal biting the apple in WWE is said, well, this is what I do. But he got over doing that. So, but anyway, he's a good guy, and Carlos is a good guy, and my hopes are that he'll be better. I don't think you recover from that, do you?
No, I don't think so. You just hope to slow the symptoms, basically. Right. Very briefly, where is LA Knight? So LA Knight seemingly was positioned to have a feud with Seth Rollins.
Yeah, I want to hear that too, because I didn't see him at the show that I went to. And there's a guy, I think, there's a lot of potential with him because of just a character. So when they decide, and that's one of the very few things that WWE finds himself in need of is established talent. He's already established. All he needs is an angle now. So is he a babyface?
Oh, yeah. Quite a popular one.
All right. So read me about LA Knight.
Well, okay, WrestleMania 42, he was in the opener with IShow Speed, and it was a six-man tag with Logan Paul, Austin Theory, and the Usos. And then, since WrestleMania 42, he's been in one backstage segment, and that's it. Apparently, he was supposed to have a feud with Seth Rollins. Well, I say apparently, I mean, it was kind of going that way when the Vision attacked him, and he was written off TV for 6 weeks, and it looked like he was going to wrestle Seth Rollins, but that didn't happen.
Okay, why was he written off TV for 6 weeks?
No, he just was.
Was he hurt?
No. Best we know, there's no reason other than just creative wrote him off TV for 6 weeks.
Okay.
He was also supposed to have a short feud with Gunther, and that didn't happen. So now he has just been left off television for weeks, and nobody knows why. Now, LA Knight might be on Raw tonight because we're recording this on a Monday. So this might be, old news by the time this gets broadcast. But it's one of those things where LA Knight is one of the most popular people on the roster, and WWE either can't or won't do anything with him, or they can't figure out where to slot him.
There's probably a motive underneath this. I will go to work uncovering this discrepancy and maybe have something for you in the next week. But I'm saying he's already established, and there's no get over time for him. You put him out there, the people knows who he is, and I know who he is, and he can just go from there. To me, that was like, a lot of times that's what creative looks for. Who knows this guy? Well, everybody knows LA Knight. So it should be just a it should just be a layup for them, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Unless I'm saying there's an underlying reason, which in wrestling there usually is.
Right. The big news, I guess, in the media industry, not just wrestling, in this past week was the death of Ted Turner.
Yep.
Died at the age of 87. He had a decade-long battle with Lewy body dementia. So the last few years, he wasn't himself, I guess, very much at all. So he was really struggling. He originally got into the television business because I believe he inherited his father's advertising business, like billboard business. And with that money, he sold that business, bought a UHF station in 1970. And from 1971 or 2, somewhere around there, he ended up bringing on Georgia Championship Wrestling. And that's how he ended up. Yeah. And you were there pretty much straight from the off.
I was there. Now, how many times you going to get a podcast host that has the resume that I have? I was there with Ted Turner. And Ted, I will say this, every time you went into that station, not every time, but you would see Ted. He usually was upstairs, but he was on property somewhere. And I've told you the story that he introduced me to Raquel Welch in the back, and a very friendly guy. He didn't let that, I own this place, so you can't talk to me. He never did that. He was down to earth and always laughing, always in a good mood. Around me, he was. So, but Channel 17 was his first station, right?
Yeah, Channel 17, it was originally WJRJ TV, Channel 17. It was renamed to WTCG, Turner Communications Group.
Yep. And their big gimmick was they didn't go on the hour. They went live at 7:05. Everything was on the 5-minute mark. Live at 4:05. That's what they would say. And you think about that, you think, well, all the stations changing at the same time to a new show. Well, he'd go a little longer on his shows. And then when he would start, that's when people were changing the channel because they didn't want to see what was on. And if they went to wrestling, and it worked for him. I thought it was a brilliant idea. And so he became a billionaire from it.
Mm-hmm. So you were part of Georgia Championship Wrestling before Ray Gunkel died. Am I right there?
I was with before he died.
Yeah. So something I read was that Anne was kind of running the company before Ray Gunkel had died, pretty much as well. She was.
Yeah, she took over the financial part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Renesto, who was the part of the world famous Assassin wrestling tag team, he was the booker. And Jody Hamilton, the other assassin, was there too. So, and they had been there, I don't know, off and on for maybe 4 or 5 years. And they liked it there. Both of them were kind of getting older by the time. They're not going to jump back and forth to the territories. They were too old for that. So, and Tom booked it and Jody worked it, and well, they had a good thing going. And Anne only owned half that. So she took her half and went as a total unit to Channel 17, and she owned all the company. So the other people that was on the other half, it was a consortium of Eddie Graham and Mike Graham and Jim Barnett, and I don't know if Bill Watts had anything to do with it, but some more people. It was about 6 or 7 people that owned the other half. So they came in there with some big names. And for their first year, Anne kicked their butts. But they were also sending out messages to all the talent: do not work for Ann Gunkel in Atlanta, or we're going to blackball you. That means if you work there, we're not, as a group, going to book you in these other territories. You couldn't have gotten booked in North Carolina. You couldn't have gotten booked in Tennessee, Alabama, Texas, Louisiana. They cut off a bunch of places that the guys had potential employment, but they threatened them with that. Whether that could have been true or not, I doubt it, because when territories need talent, they'll take anybody that can make them some money. So, but they took that at face value, and then it was because that talent became hard for Ann Gunkel to acquire, and she went 2 years fighting them. And I mean, she fought the establishment for 2 years, and then finally it just became too much for her.
I never asked you this. Were you ever specifically threatened or told that you would be blackballed unless you stopped working?
No, it was just no, not me personally. Who was I? I was starting out. Nobody cared about me anyway. But because I was in my first year, but it was more or less assumed, and it spread through the territory. You know, when something like that comes out, everybody knows. If one guy was learned of that at 10 o'clock in the morning, by 9 o'clock the same night, everybody in the company would know about it. It wasn't a big company anyway. It only had like 16 guys in it and a couple of referees. So everybody, it wasn't a lot of people that wanted to know, but those that wanted to know would know shortly thereafter. Everybody would know it.
Did you know that there was a connection with Ted and Ann? Because there was a rumor going around for a while that they used to date back in university, and that's where the connection came from.
So you're asking me to give validity to a rumor back in the day about Ted and Ann.
That's exactly what I'm asking you, yes.
No, I would say, though, I don't know for sure, or it was kept from me. But, you know, Ann Gunkel was, back then, she was a good-looking woman, a very good-looking woman. And I don't think Ted was married. And I think maybe Ann went to see him to see about staying on the television, because they were already on, I think. And that's how they got to meet each other. So, and I heard they had 2 shows because he gave Ann the plum spot. He gave her the 6:05 hour or the 7:05 hour, or one of them. But the other group wanted that hour. So, and the only way they got the hour is they threatened to sue Ted because of, I don't know, for some reason.
Well, let me flesh this out slightly then. So, best to my understanding is that Ray Gunkel died, and then...
Right. And I was there that night, too.
So Ray Gunkel died, who was the owner of Georgia Championship Wrestling, right, with Ann, or they were running it, right? And then... under Ann's nose, Bill Watts and other people, they sold the rights to the end. I don't know what it is. That gets complicated. I'm not a historian.
I didn't understand it then.
Yeah, the point is that Georgia Championship Wrestling got sold from under Ann's nose, right? So Ann then starts an Outlaw promotion almost immediately, and practically every wrestler, including you, go with Ann.
Mm-hmm.
And then the NWA affiliated Georgia Championship Wrestling for the first year, really struggling, but I believe they sued Ted to remain on the station because they had a contract. So therefore, Ted had both wrestling shows in like a 2-hour block. Were they like right next to each other?
They were both wrestling shows on the same channel, competing with each other
in the same studio, because you would record it in the same studio in the same day.
In the same studio. They would record on Saturday mornings, and we would record on Saturdays at about 2:00. So we would run into each other. They were leaving and we were coming in, but they had a rule: do not talk to anybody from that company. So if you were caught out in the parking lot talking, oh, it was a big deal. So I'm up to something. But and they came on back to back and must have done a terrific number because they were back to back.
Well, that's the thing, because I believe Georgia Championship Wrestling, so this is probably after Ann Gunkel's territory went away, was the first show on cable television to hit 1 million and 2 million views in the US. I believe I'm right in saying that. Wrestling was the most popular program on cable in the 70s.
It was.
Just to...
but that was back when wrestling was wrestling.
Oh, well, yeah.
That's what I hear all the time. Yeah, that's back when wrestling was wrestling.
All South declined, folded in 1974 because the NWA started using all their muscle and might to start blocking Ann from certain buildings and luring some of the wrestlers back over and whatnot. So it lasted 2 years.
Yeah, they did everything that they could do to run Ann out of business.
So, Georgia Championship Wrestling remains on Turner Broadcasting Network, TBS, whatever it is, I don't know, for until 1984, and then Black Saturday happens.
Yep.
And then Ted Turner's angry with Vince because he's basically reneging on the deal to create first-run unique content for the channel. He's just doing reruns of WWF house shows and whatnot. So then Turner then puts on Championship Wrestling from Georgia Inc., which was Ole Anderson's short-lived attempt at doing another Georgia-based territory, and Mid-South, and Mid-Atlantic, all on the Turner shows.
Yep. But I was gone by then. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I was on the road.
Yeah, you'd be back. Were you in Mid-Atlantic? Sorry, Mid-Atlantic. You were in Mid-South in 85. So you may well have been on Turner stations.
I did do the Turner setup while I was in Charlotte. I was in Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah, that was 86. Yeah.
Yes, I remember making that show. Yeah.
So there you go. And then in 1988, Ted buys he buys Jim Crockett Promotions, renames it WCW World Championship Wrestling, which was the name of Georgia Championship Wrestling's weekly show, which is why that was
okay. What did Ted Turner buy?
Jim Crockett Promotions.
Uh-huh.
For I don't know, was it like $8 million or something? I can't remember. It was a lot more than what Vince paid for it many years later. And over the years, WCW lost a lot of money for the company. Executives kept begging him to cancel the show, and Ted said, absolutely not. And then one day he said, never ever bring that idea up to me again. Wrestling will always have a home here as long as I'm the owner. I think there's a couple of things to mention. One, Ted, I'm not sure he ever loved the wrestling business, but he had a lot of respect for it. He thought it was, for the most part, cheap. Well, I mean, it was cheap programming, brought in great ratings. He believed it was cyclical. It didn't have like a shelf life, did pro wrestling. And that would...
And he liked that it was always changing.
Mm-hmm. So he had, a vested interest. I mean, he had many vested interests. The other thing I want to make mention of is that you'll probably have heard this on all these WWE documentaries where Vince McMahon is trying to frame it as him versus Ted Turner. And it's like, Ted Turner he barely knew who Vince was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Ted had, in his autobiography, I'm not even sure I think he mentions wrestling once, if he mentions it at all. Doesn't mention Vince, doesn't mention anything. And he's done so much stuff.
You talking about Ted?
Yeah, Ted's autobiography. Vince wasn't even a blip on his radar, but if you listen to Vince McMahon, it was like some blood feud that existed in his head only for 15 years. Do you know what it is? Tell me if you think I'm being crazy here, but Vince, I think in his brain, always wanted to be Ted Turner because he was always trying to branch out from wrestling, whether it be the XFL or the XFL again, or hotels, or music labels or film production companies, or to boxing promoter, to whatever he was doing briefly with Evel Knievel. Nobody remembers that. He's always somebody who's wanted. What? Do you remember that?
Evel Knievel, yeah, the jump, yeah.
Well, you remember Evel Knievel, but did you know that Vince McMahon was involved with Evel Knievel briefly as a promoter?
I remember the jump. I thought he was going to kill himself.
I was surprised he didn't on some of them. I think it was something to do with the Grand Canyon. Anyway, the point is that I think Vince was always jealous of Ted because he always wanted to be Ted and wanted to be a multimedia conglomerate, but he could never do it.
Yep, that's entirely possible that he thought that.
I'm going to give you a quote. There are quite a lot of quotes. I'm going to quote Ric Flair here. He said, in all capitals, first letter, "So sorry to hear about the passing of the great Ted Turner, the man that created cable before cable was cool. He created CNN, and look at it now. He rolled the dice and wasn't afraid of taking risks. He won America's Cup for sailing. His office looked like the Hall of Fame, which included a picture of him and Khrushchev. On top of all that, he created so many opportunities for so many wrestlers because of his love for wrestling. Rest in peace, my friend. Thank you for the memorable personal times we spent together." Anything else you'd like to mention about Ted, his impact on, I guess, you personally, the business as a whole?
Okay, do you think Ric Flair wrote that tweet?
I think he wrote it over the course of many hours because it takes a long time to capitalize every word.
Yeah. So, but at least a tweet was issued on behalf of Ted Turner.
He should have said also, "Oh, by the way, Ted, I was sicker than you," as well.
He didn't say that.
No. But he should have done. That would have been good continuation, wouldn't it?
Hey, it wouldn't surprise me. He said, "Hey, man, you should have kicked out like I did."
Man, you jumped on the hook on that one, didn't you?
Yeah, what was wrong with Ted?
Dementia.
Wow. Crazy. Here's my question. If people with dementia, do they know they have dementia?
I think a lot, in my experience, a lot can be completely in denial about it initially. And then I guess the further on you get, the more they don't know in the end.
If you have dementia, they cannot call you for a witness in a criminal trial,
yes,
right?
You would not be considered of sound body and mind if it was advanced.
Or a civil trial. They couldn't call you for that either.
Why? What are you trying to sue Ted for?
No, I'm not trying to sue anybody. I'm just saying that if you had dementia, they couldn't call you for a witness in any kind of a trial.
No, I don't think so. Well, I mean, keeping with the wrestling theme, that's why Jimmy Snuka never saw... I mean, he saw the inside of a courtroom, but that's why he wasn't tried in the end for murder.
Yeah.
And then everyone thought he was making it up, and then he died like 2 weeks after.
Okay, let's go back to what you said just a few minutes ago, which peaked. How do you spell peaked?
Is it Piquued?
Yes.
Yeah.
Piquued with peaked, which means like it rose a little. My interest. You said Ted Turner and Ann Gunkel.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that was a pair for a while?
It would have been many years earlier. It was said that they were dating when Ted was still in university. So, late teens, early 20s, something like that.
Late and early 20s?
No, Ted would have been in his late teens or early, 20 years old, something like that.
Yeah.
So it was years before he bought the channel, the TV station.
How old was he when he bought the channel?
Well, he bought it in 1970, and he died at 87. So he would have been 30, 31, something like that.
Yep. Well, he was in the age limit.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you never heard anything about that because we didn't have the internet. We didn't have anything. But I could possibly see those two hooking up.
You didn't have the internet, but you had each other, and that's the main thing. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. That's been Storytime with Dutch Mantell. We'll be back on Friday for Ask Dutch Anything. And the email to get in touch with this fine show is questionsfordutch@gmail.com to submit your question for that show. Until then, Dutch and everybody else, hand over your heart, say in a loud, clear voice, we the people.